So you guys are going to be ignoring the background sound. To start up with this video, you will need your pattern master. You will need your markers. You can choose different colors. If you're working with that, you will need your pin, of course, whichever one works for you. You're going to need your armhole curve, your straight mini straight ruler. You're going to need your hip curve, okay, your tape rule, and a scissor. Okay, so this is what I do. I have two pairs of scissor here, my paper scissor and my fabric scissor. And we're going to be needing this. If you have your paper tape, you can make use of it. And I use top gum. This is what I use to attach my pattern paper in case I need extra. Okay, but for this tutorial, you're going to be needing an extra pattern. All right, that one is already for a fact. But let's start the drafting and then we proceed and take up for wherever we stop. Starting off, we're going to rule our starting line as usual. It's a traditional thing because you want to make room for unforeseen circumstances. So we are going to take our measurement, and the measurement we'll be using for this particular tutorial would be on the screen. And then from here, this is our starting line, which I'm going to be using as my waistline. This is going to serve as my waistline. And then from that line, I'm going to measure my hip depth or my hip line measurement, which is going to be 9 inches. Okay, and I will take my knee point, okay, which is going to be at 18 inches. Now we're supposed to use our knee point as 18 inches, but because the knee point is actually the full length of this skirt, we are going to be making use of 24 inches or 25 inches as the case may be, because the skirt length is going to be 24 inches, so we don't need to add anything at the end of the day. Now this is the initial knee point, but because we're drafting our basic skirt bodice first, we need this measurement. So I came up by 5 or 6 inches from the actual knee point and I marked, okay, to be able to establish my basic skirt bodice. So what I'm going to do is to duplicate the measurement on this particular side of my pattern paper, so we can have a straight horizontal line and a better vertical line. So what I do is I mark 9 inches, I mark my 18 inches, and also mark my 24 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and rule an horizontal line like this. So if you are following up to this point and you know you're going to enjoy this video, do well to subscribe to our channel, okay, and God bless you. Right, so we're going to rule a horizontal line like this, and what we're going to do next is to take our basic bodies measurement. Now we know that our basic bodies measurement is divided by 4, like all know. So we're going to be dividing whatsoever round figure we have by 4. So, okay, for us to be able to see what we're marking boldly, I will be going in with my marker as usual. So I light the lines for us. I hope we're seeing now. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take back what I explained earlier, full length. And like I said, this originally is supposed to be our knee point, but because we want to get our basic bodice and also the full length of this skirt is going to be 24 inches, that's why I'm coming up for the silhouette. Okay, so now we're going to be marking our basic bodies divided by 4, and for this I'm going to be making use of a waist 28. Now Our waist measurement is 28 inches. That's the waist measurement we'll be working with. Divided by 4 is going to give you 7. And we are going to come here and mark just at the margin line. We'll mark our 7 inches. Okay, and we'll go over because we adding that to this particular. Okay, we won't need that now, but subsequently when we are manipulating the skirt, for the sake of this drafting, we'll need that. So you're going to add 1 inch for your dart measurement, and then you're going to take your sewing allowance. Remember, you're doing everything here because there will be no room for allowances when you are manipulating this pattern for your circle flare. So now that is what we just did. We marked our waist divided by 4, added our dart intake, and then our sewing or seam allowance. So now our dart intake is going to be 1 inch. Okay, that's the dart measurement that we would need for this. And then we come over to the hip depth point and we'll take our hip measurement divided by 4, which is, for this particular measurement, we're using a hip measurement of 38 inches, and divided by 4 is going to give you 9.5. So we're going to go ahead and mark 9.5 here. And of course, you don't have that on your hip, so we go ahead to impute our seam allowance, okay, or our stitching allowance, which is going to be 1.5 inches. And then on our knee point, what we usually do, I take the measurement of everything that I have on my hip depth point, which happens to be 11.5 inches. 11.5 inches. I'm going to take out 1.5 from that measurement, and it's going to give me 10 inches. So if I need it to be really curvy, I would just go ahead and mark 9 inches. But for this measurement, I'm going to be making use of 10 inches. And I will mark my 10 inches on my knee point, and I'll come over to my full length as so, and I will also mark my 10 inches. And that is all for the marking of our basic body skirt body. So what I'm going to go ahead to do now is to connect all the points together from my waist point to my knee or my full length point. So remember how you use your pattern master to achieve your curve. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be using pattern master because it's not everybody that would have that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and connect from my hip point, okay, to my waist point as so, from my hip to my waist. And then I'm going to switch over, making sure that my connecting point here aligns properly. Okay, making sure that my connecting point here aligns properly, and all the way I'm going to take it to my knee point, okay, my contoured knee point, and I will go ahead and connect it to my full length point as so. Okay, so you need this little bit fish tail to come out, but if you don't want that to be, you can just go ahead and mark a straight line. Remember to take all curve or all sharp points out. So that's what I want to do now. That's what I want to do now. So I'm taking out the sharp edge, and then I will reconnect. Okay, so this is what we have. This is what we have. So this is all for marking of the basic skirt borders. Now we want to manipulate or insert our dart. Okay, before the manipulation, we want to insert our dart. And how do you insert your dart? You will need your bust span measurement, and by that I mean your nipple to nipple measurement. For this particular measurement, I'm going to be making use of a bust span of 8 inches, and that you're going to divide it by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is going to give you 4 inches, and that happens to be my bust span divided by half. So I'm going to come from the end line of my pattern paper, and I will mark inward 4 inches, and from that line I'm going to mark outward half of an inch, and to the left half of an inch. And now my dart length is going to be 4 inches. You can take 5 inches depending on your height, but I'm going to be working with a dart length of 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark 4 inches like this. But then again, you want to take note that my dart length is going to extend to my hip. Because of the manipulation that we'll be doing with this pattern, I'm going to extend my dart length to the hip point, and as well connect my dart length, the initial 4 inches dart length that we had, to the half of an inch that we left on the right and on the left. And by that we have our basic skirt borders ready for manipulation to get the flare or the circle skirt. All right, so before we move into that stage, I hope we understand better. What we did is take our basic bodice measurement, mark our waist point, our hip point, our knee point, and our full length. And this was 18 inches, 24, 9, and our starting line, of course. So from there we connect with our basic round body divided by 4, and then we took out whatsoever we had on the full hip measurement. We took out some inches, and then we mark on our knee point and on our full length, and then we connected and inserted our dart measurement. So now we want to cut it out. Like I said, if you don't want to be sharpening or buying new set of scissors always, you want to ensure that you have a separate scissor for your paper and a separate scissor for your fabric. Remember, no sharp edges, no sharp ends. Okay, so now we are going to be getting rid of this. Okay, so like I said earlier, this pattern that I'm making, I will be using it for a dress other than just a circle flare. So that is why the upper part of this pattern paper, I'm not going to be trimming it off, okay, because the 1 inch that I left before my starting line, which also served as my waist point, okay, is going to be my joining allowance for my upper body to the skirt, okay, or lower body or the skirt block. So I'm not going to be eliminating this now. Okay, so that also is going to affect the length of the skirt, because if I should trim this 1 inch off and I'm attaching it to a dress, it means the skirt length is going to drop from 24 initial to 23. So now, to manipulate the skirt, what I want to do is to go ahead and take my dart line, okay. I'm going to measure my bust span measurement so I can connect my dart line or my dart length all the way to the full length. So remember, we made use of 4 inches, right, as our bust span divided by 2. Initially it was 8 inches, so when you divide it by 2, it's going to give you 4 inches. Whatever your bust span measurement is, divide it appropriately, and it's going to give you the measurement you should work with. Some people have 3, some people have 3.5. Okay, so whatever the case is for yours, just make sure you divide it accurately. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and connect all the dart line from my waist point to my full length. And guys, I'm trying to keep it as straight as it should be. Okay, as straight as it should be. So that is done. Now that we are done connecting our dart length all the way to the full length of our skirt, we just want to go ahead and slit this open. Now, this is a take home, or where the trick comes in. If you're going to be making this as a skirt, you would need a waistband, okay? You would need a waistband. And for that waistband, what you're going to do is come down by your waistband width or length measurement. If you're going to be using a 2 inches waistband measurement, you're going to impute that 2 inches waistband. If you're going to be making use of 1.5 inches waistband, you're going to come down from your waist point like so, okay? From your waist point, and you're going to mark 2 inches from your starting line all the way across. And when you are done marking your 2 inches like so, let me put it for those that are watching and would want to make this a skirt. Okay, for you to be able to take out your waistband and not add too much inches or length to your work, you're going to mark 2 inches downward like so, all the way to the end. Okay, take note, this is for those that would be making use of a waistband. All right, so you're going to go ahead and connect all the lines like this. So now this is going to serve as my back and my front borders, but I'm going to show you what to do when we get to the back part, because we didn't leave any allowance here that would have covered up for the 2 inches or the 1.5 inches that you would have used as your back block. It is totally fine. All right, so let's proceed. From here now, I'm going to slit open my dart length all the way to the top like so. Okay, so now I've slitted it up all the way to the full length, and as you can see, we have parted those. Ignore my table, okay, so I have to do this because I'm not home, so manage it with me. Then what I would do is to go ahead and take out my dart legs. So these are my dart legs. Remember, we had 1 inch for our dart allowance. So for me, I'm going to slit out my dart length like that, those dart legs, And because I don't have a sealing tape or your paper tape, whatever you call it, I'm going to use my gum, my top gum, to, gum back my pattern paper. So if you can check closely, I cut out my dart legs and still left a little bit of extra pattern there, and that is because I knew I was going to be working with a gum other than a tape. So what do you have if you're making use of a gum as myself? You want to leave some space where you can put your pattern paper together without it, compressing in your measurement. Now that we're done with this, we'll go ahead and introduce a fresh pattern paper for the opening of our slash lines. Okay, so now introducing this fresh pattern paper, you want to do this. Pay close attention. So when you fix your pattern paper like this, now we want to open our skirt. You want to go ahead and push this all the way out because you want to achieve a flay in. So it's supposed to be this way, okay, for you to get the angle well. This is how it's supposed to be. So what you're going to do is to push it as wide as you want it to be, but also bearing it in mind that you must establish a starting point. Okay, so this is how wide I want mine to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my also putting it into consideration, make sure that as you're opening it up, whatever you're going to be using as your borderline should be as straight as the pattern paper itself. So I'm trying to achieve a straight edge like this before taping it down. Just apply a little amount of the gum. We are making use of a tape. Just tape down like this. So now we've been able to get that angle curve this way, okay? So it's going to give you a very clean finishing at the end of the day. Go ahead to trim it to have an equal edge, and then determine how wide you want your flay to be. All right, guys, I have to make it 5 inches because it's pretty close. I've applied my gum, and to the end to where I marked my 5 inches, I've actually attached the flay now. So that point is actually opened on its own naturally because we slitted it first before any other slit happened. So now from the tip of where I marked my previous 5 inches, I'm going to extend again by another 5 inches. I'll go ahead and bring my slit leg like so. Okay, I'll bring my slit leg like so, and I'm going to go ahead to tape it down. Go ahead and do this all the way to all the slits that you have. And should in case you open all your slits and you find out that your paper you attach is not going to be enough, do well to attach another paper because there's no crime in doing that. And another thing I want you to take note of is that you need to make the waistline of your slit as balanced and smooth as possible. You don't want to have this point moving. So whatsoever slit or opening you are making, ensure that your waist point is balanced as you can. Okay, so I've gone ahead to tape everything down. Now for us to cut. If you're not good with a straight line, okay, a freehand straight line, you want to go ahead and trace out everything you have on your line all the way to the end here. So now we're going to label this the center front, okay, and this is going to be the side front. You want to take note of this because you are using the same pattern to cut your back block. Okay, so that's the side front and this is the center front. So now I'm going to go ahead and follow up with the trace of how the circle skirt is here on the pattern paper. So starting from the edge, I'm going to follow up like so, tracing it out like this. And if you are opening it up more than 5 inches or above 5 inches, you might end up attaching another paper here to continue your spread. Now our flay skirt is ready. So what you want to do now is to place it on top of your fabric and then cut it out. Now the front block or the front piece is going to be cut on fold, and then your back piece is going to give you 2 pieces each. Okay, so you're going to cut 1 inch. If you're making use of this, you don't need a lining. So a proper fabric that you should use should be either crepe, damask, whatsoever, depending on the kind of look you're trying to create. If you're creating a streetwear, you can use it on a chiffon fabric, but if it's going to be a corporate wear or a business wear, then you should look for a more professional and matured fabric to use. Now this is a 2-meter fabric, okay, so it's less than 2 yards, or should I call it 2 yards because it's almost 2 yards. Okay, I said it earlier on the video that I'm going to be making 2 of this, all right, for 2 persons, and it's a dress and not a skirt. Okay, So now folding your fabric like this, making sure that the edge of your fabric is on fold. Okay, look at it, is on fold. You're going to place your center front, aligning your center front on the pattern paper. You align the center front to the folded part of your fabric. Okay, so this is the side front and this is the center front. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. All right, and I'm going to be attaching my hemming allowance now on the fabric because I didn't do that on the pattern paper. And also I had created a crease, like a line up here before my starting point, which is going to serve as my joining point, so I would not have any need of attaching or adding another half of an inch allowance to the top. So other than that, everything is pretty much going to be the same the way you see. So let's cut. So I'm going to follow this line to arrive at a sequence, because when you were cutting a flake pattern like this on a fabric that looks into seemingly be the same, aligning and detailing also coming into place. So go ahead and make use of any fabric you have available, and then let's go. So now this is, we're done cutting out our front piece, which is actually on fold, and this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna take that off and then show you what it looks like. This is what the front bodice is going to look like. Now mind you, taking it back on fold, no point. So I'm going to notch my midpoint like this on the top and at the bottom, at the top and at the bottom. So this is my front block, so, and it's on fold.